Hello everyone. For the discussion 3, I picked the conventional deadlift for the free weight exercise. I thought this would be a good choice for the exercise for two reasons. One, this is a movement I am familiar with but have not had a lot of practice recently performing it. When I started powerlifting, I tried conventional and was very uncomfortable, so I switched to sumo and haven't looked back since, and that was almost 2 years ago. As of recently, I was prescribed conventional deadlifts for a couple blocks of training, so I'm practicing every cue and trying to make every rep look identical. And the second reason is I think the conventional deadlift gets a bad rep as being a detrimental exercise because it's bad for your back or it can herniate a disc, etc. While this is true, those things will not happen if you practice form and technique before throwing on a weight that you cannot handle. So I made a video of me deadlifting from a couple angles, and will give you my setup cues and how I get ready for the conventional deadlift. And then later I'll point out some common errors during the conventional deadlift and then give some cues to correct those. So here I'm stepping up to the bar, and I'm basically screwing my feet into the ground. And I'll add an example of what I mean by screwing my feet into the ground. I'm basically creating a dome with the arch of my foot and pushing my feet into the floor at the same time. So to get this arch in the foot, I do two things. One is I'm externally rotating my hip to get the glutes activated, and I'm using the cue of squeezing the ground with my toes while at the same time scraping gum off my heel. So this not only allows my glutes to become activated, but prevents the knees from starting to go into a valgus position, which would be disadvantageous to the athlete. So I make this slight arch so I can push through the middle of my foot and feel pressure through the midfoot and heel and the toes while I'm deadlifting. So I'll talk about what I'll do next, and then I will play the rest of the video so you can see what I'm talking about. So once my feet are screwed into the ground, I exhale to contract my abdominals. And then while keeping the contraction of those abdominals, I take a slight breath in and then brace my core even harder. This promotes a strong core and then helps to keep the back neutral as well during the lift. And then I hinge down into the bar. I hinge my hips back until I feel my fingers on the bar. I don't like to reach down and grab the bar or squat down to the bar. I hinge until I feel the bar, and then when my hips are lower than my shoulders, but high enough where my glutes will still be activated when I begin to initiate the pull. Then I do this thing with my arms that cues me to keep my shoulders depressed and retracted. Some people use the cue of packing their lats into their back pocket or covering their armpit so no one can tickle them. But all the cues enable the same thing, which is to get the scapulas depressed and retracted, to have a firm upper back so no rounding will occur. Also, cueing the depressed scapula will allow the arms to be at the longest length possible, which is advantageous and creates better leverages for the athlete. So again, I'll talk about what I'm doing first and then play the rest of the video so you have a visual. Once I hinge down to the bar and I feel the bar with my hands, I grip the bar using a hook grip. Some people may choose to use the mixed grip or double overhand. However, the hook works best for me. The hook works best for me because I feel I can stay tighter, and when I use the mixed grip, the bar sometimes starts to helicopter or go off balance. So I try to stay away from that unless I have to. Anyways, I hook grip the bar and begin the concentric portion of the movement. And I have some cues here to help me. I use my arms as hooks, and I keep them fully extended. My arms really aren't doing anything except just gripping the bar, and I'm pulling them back to, again, help keep the scapulars depressed. I keep the back neutral and then try to ensure minimal rounding occurs when I come up. I keep the chest up and out and keep my head in line with the rest of my vertebral column. And then my scapulas are right over or a little bit in front of the bar. And then I begin the lift by pushing my feet into the floor and then I use the cue, try to push the ground away from me. I cue myself to bend the bar around my shins to help keep the lats activated and the shoulders depressed. I also keep the torso angle constant and not let my hips rise before my shoulders. I'm extending the hips and the knees at the exact same time, and once the bar passes the knees, I jam my hips through as fast as possible and stand erect. I lower the bar by flexing the knees slowly and then hinging the hips back, and then more reps are repeated from the same position if desired. Alright, so I'll play the video a couple times in full motion and full speed, and a couple times in slow motion so you can see exactly what I'm doing in real time. And here is just another side angle. I know I showed it from the front, but this is a side angle of the same conventional deadlift. So now that I've given the instructional video on how to perform the conventional deadlift and given some cues along with it, I'll go over some common errors and then some cues to fix the errors. So the error number one is just walking up to the bar, getting into position, and then just ripping the bar off the ground without keeping any tension. This is commonly called the grip and rip deadlift, and this is how injury occurs. Once you build that tension while getting into position for the deadlift, you have to keep it throughout the lift. So in order to not grip and rip, you have to pull the slack out of the bar and keep tension while you begin the initiation of the pull. I will show you what it looks like to grip and rip. I won't actually do it because I didn't want to get hurt, but I'll show you what it would look like if you were to do it and not take the slack out of the bar. The hips will rise earlier than the shoulders and then therefore stress the lower back and make the ending portion of the movement harder to finish. So I'm just going to let this video play in the background while I talk. You can see here I'm pulling on the bar before I initiate the pull. You can see the bar bend a little bit. And one of the cues I like to give myself is that I should feel heavy in my hand before I start to initiate the pull. And in some bars, you can even see where the collar is. It moves a little bit and you can hear a click in the bar. So you should hear the click and feel heavy in your hands before you initiate the pull. So get your setup, hinge down to the bar, grip the bar, keep all that tension, and then pull the bar, and you should feel heavy in your hands, and you might even hear a click with the bar. But that's how you keep the tension and not to do the grip and rip deadlift. Another common error in the conventional deadlift is not hinging down to the bar properly. Some people just reach down and grab the bar and then initiate the pull from there. This, more times than not, puts the back in a rounded and compromised position. This is how injury occurs. Hinge down to the bar to engage the quads, hamstrings, and glutes and to create tension before the pull. I will show you what it looks like to hinge, and then show you what it looks like to just reach down and grab the bar and the undesired position that you will be in. To learn how to hinge, the technique of the RDL should be learned properly, which is the next topic of the video. So because I forgot to film the regression of the deadlift at the gym, I had to do it at home with the straightest thing that I could find, so I chose a resistance band. For the regression, the RDL can be used as a way to learn how to hinge, which is one of the main movements in the deadlift. So the RDL can be done and taught before the deadlift is taught, so the athlete knows how to hinge and how to properly get down to the bar without injuring themselves. This can also be performed if the deadlifts are bothering the athlete. Some of the same muscles are still involved, a little less leg drive in the RDLs, but you're still getting a lot of activation of the hamstrings and glutes. So if the deadlift is bothering the athlete, they can also do an RDL, and later, once they get better at the RDL, they could try the deadlift again. So while at the gym, I also forgot to record the progression of the conventional deadlift. For the progression, I have chosen the paused conventional deadlift. So it's pretty similar to the conventional deadlift, except when the bar comes off the floor, you hold it and pause it, hence the name paused deadlifts, for a given amount of time. It could be 1 second or it could be a 2-count pause. But this is more taxing on the core because you have to hold the position that you started in after the bar comes off the floor. And this is for more advanced lifters to use.